So you're thinking about your senses. So your sight, your hearing, your even smell, right, can elicit certain emotions or thoughts. Uh, More so, and even touch can elicit things subconsciously that we don't even recognize.
Welcome to the Mindcoach System audio experience. Learn this simple and effective process to unlock your peak potential in life and business.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Mindcoach System audio experience and our YouTube channel. We just posted recently 6 hacks to conquer your mindset on our social media, and we've been getting a ton of questions about it because we only really touched on it at a high level. So today, I'm here with Dave Loshelder and myself, and we're going to go through the 6 in a little bit more detail, so you get a little bit more substance to how you can apply these 6 mindset hacks. Welcome, Dave. How are you?
Hey, what's going on, Adam? How's the weather over there?
Well, sitting here on the beach. What beach are you on?
Maui.
Lovely. Lovely.
Yeah.
Let's get right into it. So number 1, choose your words carefully. Dave, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, you know what, man? That's probably one of the most important things we could talk about is the internal dialogue people have and what they say to themselves. I can tell you the clients that I work with, the one thing that just the other day, actually, it was, what are you saying to yourself? And that determines your self-esteem, that determines your self-concept, that determines your self-efficacy. All those things are affected by the words you use, and not to mention, which I did mention, was actually the feelings and emotions that you generate from those words and self-talk. I mean, just imagine when you're saying, like, how does it feel when you say, I can't do it, I'm not able to do it, I'm a loser, all those things. That's a negative response to that, and you feel that way, and your actions follow accordingly. So yeah, it's super important.
Yeah, we talk about it in our book, and what you're really doing here at a psychological level is creating separation from the situation or experience. So when you say, I am a loser, you now represent yourself as that. When you start using different words, such as, like, I've had a lot of losses, or I used to lose quite a bit, or even further separation is using even your name. Adam lost quite a bit in the past.
Mm-hmm.
When you start playing with the words, you start disassociating your identity from the experience. And word selection, it's so easy to just say things and have your emotions kind of fuel your words. But when you take a step back and you consciously start placing those words, you can create the separation, get over those emotional experiences way faster, and start creating a new identity for yourself that will put you in the direction that you want to go. Super potent. There's tons of research around that, that it does in fact work. We could cite tons of stuff, but we don't have time right now. So let's move on to number 2, incorporating symbols. Incorporating symbols. Dave, you want to?
Yeah. So when over history, we've had as humans symbols that depict something that make us who we are. And so as you kind of look at certain things, you can actually utilize certain symbols as an identity and as a connection with your environment and with yourself. And I think what we talked about in the book was utilizing those to be able to make that connection with yourself and with others, to be able to kind of motivate yourself to kind of move forward in the right direction.
Yeah, this was one that we got a lot of questions on because people were asking, like, well, what would you recommend? And so just to give you an idea of some of the ones that people use, for example, people might wear a necklace with something representing a belief, or, some people wear, a cross, a holy cross, or a Jewish star around their neck. Why do they do that? It's to remind them of the religious background, of things that are important to them, maybe their values. Some people, so it could be things that you wear. It also could be music you listen to. So there might be certain songs that you've heard or you've listened to in the past that bring up emotions and bring up things that mean something to you. Maybe you hear a song and you remind yourself, it reminds you of Cheeseburger in Paradise. You're on the beach in Maui, right? That type of symbolism is very powerful, especially in music and sound. So you can utilize sound to bring you back and point you in those directions. When you think about schools and colleges, all of these have mascots. What are mascots? Mascots are an embodiment of a symbol. The tornadoes, or the bulldogs, or whatever, and you're looking at that symbolism to say, we're bulldogs. This is what it means. We're rough, we're tough, right? We fight back. There's so many symbols that you can really apply, but you just need to make sure that those embody the values and help trigger the thoughts and the emotions that you want. And the more that they're in your view and in your earshot, you're going to be able to bring yourself back to those things that you're going after.
Yeah, because that they give meaning to something, which gives an emotional response again, which also is an actionable movement that you can take, right? So you're connecting with that. So it's almost like a metaphor, and we also talk about metaphors too, where it's it is like, I am like a tornado, I am like a whatever, and that gives you that feeling of like, oh, okay, I'm identifying, I can see it, it's visual, and then you're able to connect with that very easily, and so it becomes a true motivator, because then you can kind of identify what type of emotion do you really want, and by utilizing that symbol, that's an automatic connection.
Yeah. So you're thinking about your senses. So your sight, your hearing, your even smell, right, can elicit certain emotions or thoughts. More so, and even touch can elicit things subconsciously that we don't even recognize. So the more symbolism that you have in your life that points you in a positive direction or what you're going after, you're going to be able to stay on track much easier than not having those. All right, moving on to number 3, move your body. So this is talking about physiology and actually the emotional response and physiological response that we get subconsciously just from moving our body into different positions or having different exercises we do. And some people were also asking us, what would you recommend? What are some things that we can do to hack our mindset with these movements?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, right, you can motivate yourself in a couple different ways. You can use your self-talk to do that. And what we've done with our clients, if that doesn't work, then you can kind of re-engineer it and go the opposite way, which you can utilize movement as motivation. And so think about it. You're not feeling that great, or maybe you're like, okay, well, you're tired, and like, man, I don't want to work out. I know the other day I was like, man, I just didn't want to work. I didn't feel it. And it's like, once you get started, then it's like, oh man, after I was done, it's like the best work I had all week. But so it's getting that movement going, and with movement, causes different types of emotional responses, physiological responses. So that motion that you do what makes a difference in your feelings, your emotions, your motivation. So that's really important to know, because if you don't want to do it, just get moving and then start doing something, and that may give you the momentum to be able to kind of get things rolling.
Yeah. Yeah, and to Dave's point, when the mental dialogue and you're trying to motivate yourself isn't working, the easiest thing to do is starting with your actions in your body. So if you're feeling upset, depressed, angry, you know, standing upright, bringing your shoulders back, kind of forcing a little bit of a smile, maybe even forcing a little bit of a laugh, even though it's faked, it actually starts to create that, again, that separation from your identity of like, oh, I'm angry. This is who I am right now. But when you start laughing and shifting your body into different positions and more powerful positions, it starts tricking your body. Your body's like, what's going on? That's not how I was feeling before. You're messing with me here, and it starts to get confused, and it starts to decrease the feelings that you might be having in the present moment. They're not going to go away, but it does reduce that, and it does have some longer term effects um, when you start utilizing, like Dave said, exercise. Start walking. Instead of sitting down, standing up, shoulders back. Facial expressions are critical, and actually have been shown to elicit a lot of responses. So you can actually force a smile, and the longer you have that smile on, it starts to actually create a sense of happiness because your mind is wired to your face. So powerful stuff, super powerful stuff, and easy. Number 4, change what it means to you. Change what it means to you. So some people have explained this as your story. Some people have explained this as, everybody has, um, a meaning behind something, but, you know, getting a different perspective on what just happened, what the experience that you might be going through, or what just occurred. Do you have any thoughts on that, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, the whole notion of you kind of writing your own narrative, and you could make this up, like if you, and that's part of vision, is where you're writing your own narrative to be able to say, okay, where do I want to be and what are my goals, but then writing that narrative to get you to that. And you can play that out any way you want to. And I think that, like, having that meaning behind it is really important, and that's where you can again be able to connect with what you want and how you want it, so you're able to kind of move forward. And then you can start acting the way you want to act, finding the people you need to be involved with to help you, if it's mentors or teachers or whatever. All that needs to be played out, and you can basically write the script for your own life movie.
Yeah, for example, like in a war scenario, there might be 2 soldiers. Both of them had, maybe their legs amputated or had some sort of accident, similar accidents. But one person is going to come away from that saying, I'm the most unlucky person in the world, gets depressed, maybe becomes an alcoholic, and goes down this very dark path. And then the other person said, I'm so happy to be alive. Starts becoming a motivational speaker, helps other people that might be going through the same traumatic experiences. Same event, but 2 different meanings to what they gave that experience. And, some of that is hardwired, right? Some of that is hardwired for how we've been trained to think. But a lot of that, to Dave's point, can be designed. So there is not one way of looking at something. There's always more than one way to look at something that happened, something that occurred, and finding the meaning. Now, the trick to this is, and this is the hardest part of it, is whatever you decide to believe to be true, it needs to be stronger and more powerful than the previous thing that you had. So if you had a previous belief about what something meant to you, you're not going to adopt a different belief until that belief is more powerful than the previous one. That becomes tricky. So you really have to look and dig deep and see, is that something I can stand behind and something I can believe in? Otherwise, it's not going to adopt, and you're going to revert back to the old meaning that you had. Number 5, shift your perspective. This one is so cool. I love this one. This is talking about thinking about things from a different point of view. And it's never really talked about, never really done, but it's such a cool way to look at problems or situations. Dave, you want to talk on this one a bit?
Yeah, I mean, there's several ways to look at one situation, and this is kind of based on reframing, where, for example, just the other day there was somebody that said, "Yeah, man, I just, they paid all these taxes, and they were complaining about, they paid many more taxes than they would the previous year," and it was like, well, yeah, that's good, and they go, what do you mean it's good? I said, well, because you obviously made more money than you did last year. So it's kind of that reframe of like, you can look at it with the glass half empty or half full, is the whole proverbial type of idea with this. So where do you want to look at this? You can look at something in a positive way or a negative way, something that doesn't serve you or does serve you. So the question that is asked a lot is that current situation you're looking at serving you? Is it serving you in a positive way or a negative way? Is it motivating you or demotivating you? So it's really, there's a dichotomy there, and the situation's all the same. It's a situation. So how you look at it depends on how you feel.
Yeah, and another iteration of that, which goes in the same vein, is when you're looking at a situation that happened and you're analyzing it from your own personal experience and your own personal, life journey on all the things that you've experienced, you're going to come at that situation with certain, rules and values, and you're going to put it through your own personal filter of like, this is what it means to me. But you can actually step outside of your own head as well and shift into, how would Bill Gates think about this? How would God think about this? How would a child think about this? A comedian? And putting yourself in someone else's shoes, so to speak, can also help you to create that different meaning of what happened, so that you can get a different perspective on that situation, and then, like Dave's saying, create something that serves you and get a little bit more of a 360-degree view of it instead of a tunnel vision view from your own perspective. So changing your perspective, looking at it from different vantage points can be massively beneficial. And number 6, the worst case scenario.
This is probably my favorite out of all of them. If you have a situation that you're dealing with, and if you said to yourself, look, what's the worst case scenario? And, let's say, for instance, you were going to like, money, for example, right? And you say, well, what's the worst case scenario? Well, the worst case scenario would be that I would lose $10. Well, is that a problem for you if you lost $10, if that's the worst case? Well, no, it's not. And so by looking at something, now the worst case scenario can be worst case, it can be bad, but you have to think about what would be the potential there. And then from there, what's the probability and what's the probability with that? Because if you have to measure a couple different things. You have to measure, worst case, and you have to measure is it probable, is it possible? And so once you can figure those things out, then you can make an analysis and decide, okay, what actions do I have to take based upon that? Because it might not be as bad as you think it is. So I think that's where the art and the science come together, when you're kind of thinking through something mentally. And like we're talking about mental wellness, like how do you keep yourself mentally well and balanced? And these are the skills, these are the hacks that if you employ these every day, then you're able to kind of find yourself, okay, I can keep myself in check by just asking a few questions and then make an analysis, and then I can take appropriate action.
Yeah. And a lot of times, we've all heard it, fear stops us from achieving, our highest potential, right? And a lot of times we don't really write down what's the worst case scenario if we really went after that thing that we're trying to, but we're afraid of making that next step or that big jump or that going into that uncomfortable situation for numerous reasons. And some of those could be very valid, but until you write them out and say, here's the worst case scenario if I don't succeed, if I fail, how can I mitigate that? What can I do now and what can I do later to avoid that or lessen the impact of that? And if those are either thought up ahead of time, or maybe you're in the process of going through a bad situation, it helps you to really think out, all right, am I making it worse than it really is? I'm going to cite Tim Ferriss. Tim Ferriss has an exercise called fear setting that he explains in several of his books. And it's a very powerful exercise that he uses to be a highly effective, entrepreneur, where he writes out, this is the worst case scenario for everything. So this is what's stopping me. And it basically lessens the barriers and allows him to play a lot bigger game in life. Those are the 6 hacks, guys. So I hope you can elaborate on those. Please comment below. Give us some that maybe we didn't talk about, we didn't think about. And we appreciate your, please like and subscribe. We appreciate your feedback and comments. And until next time, this is Dave Loshelder and Adam Kripke, and thank you so much.
See you guys.